welcome back to another video feature of the Immersive Worlds Handbook. Today I'm at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, and I wanted to take you on a video tour here and give you some senses of the incredible and innovative theming that is available here at this impressive Disney resort. So let's go around and take a look. So again, throughout the hotel lobby here, you can see just the incredible attention to detail in terms of the theming here with the fire pit. And so on my the beginning of my tour here, and I'll give you some voiceovers I recorded on site during my visit. This was part of a backstage tour, an edu tour through the IAAPA conference I attended, and it was quite amazing. And so basically, our guide got us there, and we spent some time working on here in the hallway we all met, and we spent some time working on trying to get our audio devices together because there was at least 50 people per group and probably 200 people total, so massive amounts of people who participated in this. But we had about an hour or so just to enjoy the spaces of the hotel, so I tried to walk around and discover as much as I could on my own. And I think my initial insights were of amazement, and I'll talk throughout this video about how to pull off something like this in a convincing sense, you have to have not just Disney's Imagineering insights and creativity and excellent design approaches, and I should say that part of this also included a luncheon with Joe Rohde, who expressed some of his work on Animal Kingdom, the park, and some other projects, also one very interesting in Hawaii. And that was very neat to have that as a bookend to this visit, because you could really then take in the design, the concept, the imagination, the aesthetics, the principles that went behind this and many other theme spaces that he was involved in and Disney was a part of, certainly. You could make that comparison, and I thought it then overall was a very enjoyable experience doing one of these edu tours, because you not only got the material side of things, but you got the conceptual side of things. And as I mentioned later, there's a backstage tour that we did that was really interesting, because we got a sense of how the guest service culture and philosophy mimicked, in terms of values, in terms of language, in terms of social and cultural issues, mimicked what's going on here at the Animal Kingdom Lodge and also throughout the Animal Kingdom theme park. And that was really interesting to see, because it suggests then that theming is much more than a simple set of material cues or architectural design statements. It's also about values and culture themselves. Well, as you can see with any Disney property, I mean, just the level of detail, right? I mean, just every inch of the resort is so carefully crafted. You look at every bit of furniture, every mural, just the railings, all the features, as you can see, are just absolutely incredible. I mean, from an immersive standpoint, as you can see from the video hopefully here. Okay, and as we continue the tour, one of the things that maybe occurred to you and occurred to me was when I was looking at the lobby of Disney's Wilderness Lodge, was that it seems so similar to me to some of Disney's other hotels. And indeed, if you investigate a bit further, the architect Peter Dominic of the Urban Design Group, based out of Denver, not only designed this particular hotel, but also, as you see here, Disney's Wilderness Lodge, which is at Walt Disney World. You're going to see striking similarity then in terms of the large lobby lodge area in the three hotels. And then next, also Disney's Grand Californian Hotel and Spa. And the third reference I thought of, and I don't know if there's a connection, I did not research this, but would be the giant effect that you feel in outdoor stores in a similar sense, the lodge feel. I'm thinking specifically of Cabela's and Bass Pro Outdoor World in terms of that feel when you enter the space. Just a massive lodge that is architecturally stunning, and so I think it's something that creates for the guest a sense of place. Now, I was also going to mention that the lodge opened in 2001, and so it's a relatively new hotel, and also that they've turned some of the areas, I didn't get to tour those, into villas as well. So apparently that's another expansion process that started in 2008. And I think as you had a chance to see throughout this video, a lot of different spaces. This one here, we were told, is one of their higher end African restaurants. One of the things I thought that was exciting is that for some tourists, they have the opportunity to try new foods that they normally wouldn't try. And someone mentioned to me, one of the other persons on the tour, that during the day, I didn't get very good shots here, but of the restaurant here, there's an effect that happens with the lighting that is pretty spectacular. And our behind-the-scenes guide told us that this was one of the one of her favorite restaurants, and certainly a favorite with guests as well. And I think you'll see here again the art is extended throughout the property, and it's one of the senses you get of total theming, of total integration. We're going out here now towards some of the pool areas, so you get to see. In addition to that back area that you're going to be looking at, you're seeing here some of the water features and just some of the attention to detail that, again, in a Disney resort you come to expect. And I think that's probably one disadvantage, probably, if you're Disney, is that when you make the next theme park, and we saw this with DCA, Disney California Adventure, there was a very high expectation and didn't exactly work as planned for a variety of reasons, which I discussed in some other videos that you can watch. But over the years they rethemed, and I think they've picked up steam in terms of revamping that property. And that's one of the things that happens with say a Disney or Universal theme park or their various properties such as the hotels, is that expectation of the guests that it's going to be spectacular, that next resort. And I have to say, I haven't done a video on Animal Kingdom, the park itself, but certainly I would say that Animal Kingdom is overall as a concept is very unique because it is a hybrid zoo theme park. It's really one of the few in the world, although zoos have been known for some time to do experimentation with theming and approach to design and architecture and how the berms are set up to give guests the illusion that animals are co-mingling with one another in the same space when in fact they're not. I mean, some of those techniques going back to early German zoos have been picked up with Animal Kingdom. So we're taking a look here at a bit more of the signage. Quite a few restaurants I noticed. I think you saw some images and see some additional ones of the buffet. You saw the higher end restaurant. They have a, looks like for the pool area there as well, some refreshments you can order. I think one of the things when you go through a resort like this, you just get that sense of just the scale, not just the cost of the resort, but the scale of it. Just think about the cleaning. You know what's involved in the maintenance and cleaning of a massive resort like this, one of many spaces within Disney's Animal Kingdom. So we'll head back inside here. I really like what they did here, and also you'll see on the exterior near the animal grazing areas with some of the fence features and really tasteful decor. I mean, the colors, that they chose for the hotel, very, very tasteful, very attractive. Yeah, I mean, just overall, I think just an excellent approach to design. Again, you see some of the features here carrying on the inside in terms of taking that jagged look of the fences from the outside and extending on the inside. Going up the stairs here again. I think I'll take you through this a few times. You see I always have my camera out. I'm snapping photos. I'm doing the GoPro as we go with the shaky video, albeit, but trying to get a sense of the overall feel of the space. And for me, it's very important when I visit a space like this one for the first time to really have a sense of maybe how a guest would experience it on a first go-around. I think sometimes, we get a tour, as I experienced, you get a different perspective, and so it's a bit unfair in terms of, I won't say judging the space, but it's a bit unfair in terms of being able to see it from that perspective, because of course a guest, particularly on the first visit, sees it in a much different sense. And that's, for me as a cultural anthropologist, always important to think about the first impressions, and it's something that gets discussed so often in the themed amusement industry, is trying to really captivate the guest upon first visit. And certainly with the artwork here, we're back in the massive atrium area of the lodge. You get that sense of importance Again, even if you didn't know about the size of their African art collection, you might be impressed because you have that sense that there's meaning, there's a sense of symbolism to what you're seeing with the material culture. We often talk about objects having mana, which is a supernatural power or a force that gives you that sense that there's something unique about them. They don't seem just artificial, they don't seem faux, they seem like they're entirely charged with energy, history, power, cultural identities, whatever it happens to be. Looking at there then the layout of the entire resort, so you get a sense again of the scale. And I'll take you here, I believe, to the elevator corridors. I wandered, meandered just around and tried to find some other areas, but I was kind of short on time, so I just stayed within the lobby area, the gift shop, the back animal area, and a few of the bars and restaurants. What I wanted you to see here in this last video before you hear some of my on-site discussion, the attention to detail as well here with the elevators and some of the signage and so forth. Just a really nice approach here in terms of the overall theming complex of the resort. Oh, so as you can see, one of the clear attractions here staying at this hotel is you can actually see the animals. So there's a zebra right there, and that's probably pretty dramatic if you're a guest. You can just basically wake up in the morning and outside you see some of the animals grazing. So it certainly does suggest a level of immersion that's probably unprecedented at most places around the world. So snap a few more photos here and we'll take a continued tour of the inside, and I want to take you the back side to see also if we can see any more animals out that way. So let's take a few more photos and spin around the other way. Okay, and as we make our way back in here, you can see again just more and more of the material culture of the African art that's on display here in this really, I thought, tasteful, I don't know if it's a lounge area here. I didn't get a chance to determine that, but you get a sense just, again, of the fact that they're really trying to emphasize the art being a part of the identity of the Animal Kingdom Lodge. And in fact, if you removed it, just think about how much that would change the identity of the space. And again, I think it does give it something very unique in terms of theming here. Okay, so I was going to offer the other thing that's interesting here. As you can see, guests receive a wildlife spotting guide, and I can open that up for you. Pretty extensive. Again, this is adding, I may have to show you some stills as well. It's a little dark here, but again, this is adding to the guest experience because basically you can, wake up in the morning, get up, open the curtains, and presumably see some of these animals grazing right outside your window. So that's part one. Two is a guide that focuses on some of the African art, and the tour we did today, the Disney individual said that they claim to have one of the largest collections of African art anywhere in the world. So again, lending some sense of authenticity to the experience. And when you open this up, some of the detail you might expect from a museum, the difference being that you're within the theme space of a Disney theme park. So again, offering some sense of authenticity in terms of the immersion of the guest within the spaces of the Animal Kingdom Lodge. Okay, and I'm just viewing some of the video I shot inside the Animal Kingdom Lodge during my visit to Orlando, Florida, this very interesting themed hotel. I'll take you around and show you some of the sights. You can see the lobby here, very spectacular in terms of the theming here. And they noted that they have one of the largest collections of African art in the world, which I found pretty interesting as far as, I guess, a private buyer or a private venue as opposed to museums and so forth. And as I'll talk about in my videos, but two interesting brochures they passed out. One is a wildlife spotting guide, and you'll see that I actually did spot, and I'll show you the video of a zebra during my visit. And you can see all the different animals that you can look at, and just as you might at a zoo, and it has information about how to spot the animals and also some safety, keeping the animals safe and yourself safe. So that's document one. The second one is, I found this quite intriguing. This is a descriptive brochure about the African art collection that I just mentioned. And this is the type of thing that you probably would see in a proper museum. And yet here it is at Animal Kingdom. So I thought it was another interesting way in which they expressed this attempt to connect to the culture and to connect to the aesthetics, in this case of African art as it relates back to Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge. So let me show you some of the video then that I've edited here to show you some of the sights and sounds of Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge in Orlando, Florida. And again, probably something we only see at a Disney property is live performance just outside the lobby here. Okay, so we had a chance then to listen to and experience some of the, drumming and performance that you can experience as a guest. And it's another sign, I think, of how Disney seriously takes theming. Again, I've said throughout this video and so many others that it's only achievable if you have capital. I mean, going through a space like this, looking at any given surface, I just kept thinking of money. I just kept thinking of investment and the fact that you have to be a different type of entity, a different type of corporation to pull this off. So, that's nothing against what we see here, but it's just a point that a lot of times in my work when I'm advising people about theming and design, I always have that as the asterisk, behind anything I say about design. If you don't have the capital investment, if you don't have the money, if you don't have the resources, the people power, whatever, all of it is moot, right? Because you can dream anything you want. And certainly what we're seeing, in 2016 moving forward with Disney's big efforts to create, with their acquisition of Lukas films and the whole Star Wars brand and film rights and everything else, we're going to see that as well. To pull off something like a Disney theme land or, other parks, if you think about in the future, Avatar theme lands and so forth, you have to have a level of capital there beyond your imagination and dreams. And I think that's always lost in the discourse about, so many books have been written talking about bringing an Imagineering culture, a Disney work culture to your own culture. On the one hand, you could do this. You could do some of the things. You could talk about blue sky philosophies and use that to govern your imagination and creativity in whatever work you do, and that's great. But the other side of it is, if you're going to do that, if you're even going to have that conversation, you cannot at any level, should not perhaps at any level even have that conversation because of the fact that you're never going to get there. And I think that's a harsh realization probably of looking at a space like this and comparing it to, other places in the world. And all these points being said, I think it's still significant to marvel at what we see here in terms of the theming and the immersion here at the Animal Kingdom Lodge. And one of the things I loved about the hotel is the fact that they've effectively merged or used or taken advantage or created dialogue between the indoor and the outdoor spaces. Again, because you have the natural world here, and not just the landscape, but the fauna available here. You can then have people looking at, guests can appreciate the animals, and there's a reason to go outside. You see things like fire pits, and I don't have the audio up here so much, but there's musical effects here. There were guides just on this pathway who also were offering opportunities to have the guests learn more about the animals and so forth. And so I've been suggesting throughout this video that what is really key about Disney's efforts here is that it's a total effort. They have integrated, in a very holistic sense, all the components of theming, from the material to the performative to the high quality service standards, everything imaginable. Again, it's a totally immersive world, and I think the guests can truly feel that here at this space. So as you can see here, it's hard to not just like constantly snap a photo, just like anywhere you look. As you can see, there's just the finest attention to details. And here then is another area where, as you can see from the guest room, you can view some of the animals. This morning it was interesting, they mentioned that the animals aren't in this area now, that they try to make sure that the animals are available in the park for people to see. And there's a whole performative aspect, right, to animals performing, and that, I think, it was always a key if you read some of the early literature on Animal Kingdom, right, was the fact that animals are unpredictable. And so Disney, of course, is dealing with some issues that you wouldn't typically think about with their previous endeavors. Audio animatronics are perfectly controllable, whereas animals are potentially unpredictable. But even then, if you've read the literature, they've done some major efforts as far as trying to control the animals as much as they can. And one of the guides today from Disney actually mentioned that the animals are a form of labor. So it's kind of interesting to think about from that perspective of how animals are performing for the guests. And I think then, in terms of thinking about what makes immersion successful, in the case of a place like Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, it's every level of detail that you see, from the most utilitarian objects like lights and poles and fences and so forth. They serve utilitarian purposes, but of course fully themed, given the African theming that they've accomplished here to such levels of detail and immersion. And I think for me, the point about when you're entering an immersive space, there's not a moment, unless you choose, there's typically not a moment where you're not immersed in the space. So you wake up in the morning and you see the animals grazing. We don't see that many today, but I did see a zebra on the other side. And you're fully immersed when you go into the restaurant. I mean, everything from the costuming to the performance to all the African art they have in the lobby. Such attention to detail. And again, most companies couldn't do this. I think most companies would have theming, but it would be at 1/10, or maybe probably 1/100th of the level of what Disney can accomplish. So clearly, to do this, as we just spin around, look at everything, you're thinking about capital, right? You're thinking about massive amounts of capital, and most companies obviously couldn't accomplish something of this scale. And I think that's one of the keys in thinking about immersion, is that it's never cheap. And if you do immersion on the cheap, it can look incredibly tacky. And I think that's a challenge for any small company in the themed or amusement industry, entertainment business, is that you struggle maybe to do something that Disney does, and you can't do it at that level just because of a lack of capital. So it's something to think about in terms of the budget that has to get behind any kind of thematic or immersive design that you might offer for the guest. And so in just a little bit, we're going to take a backstage tour of some of the areas that you wouldn't normally see. So obviously for those tours, I won't have the video going, but I will give you some reflections on some of the aspects, the sights of what I saw on that tour. And so as we look at some of my additional footage here going into the gift shop, which is a pretty impressive gift shop, I have to say, here at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, let me comment then just a bit on what I experienced in the backstage tour. And I would advise you, if you could, to also check out my Legoland Hotel video, because I found that there were a lot of parallels between what I saw in the two themed hotels. Again, I was there for the IAAPA conference, and I did two of these edu-tours, which takes you behind the scenes of the operations and the theming and design of famous theme spaces in Orlando, which is where the conference is typically held. So what was really interesting to me about this was that the tour guide from Disney was so open and showed us so much. And again, I wasn't able to take photos, but basically the backstage cast areas for the Animal Kingdom Lodge, which we entered just through the parking lot, were also themed. And a lot of the spaces had a functional look to them, not unlike what I experienced in the backstage areas in my days working at Six Flags Astroworld in Houston, Texas. But what was pretty interesting was the fact that they had so much available there that extended the theme, and most importantly, extended it in a conceptual way, in a service culture sense. And I'm reminded of years ago reading a Disney Imagineering book about trying to bring, it was in the case of Disney's Polynesian Resort at the Magic Kingdom in Orlando, trying to bring some of the philosophies of, say, those cultures that they use for inspiration for their theming to the service practices at the given place. So this was clearly something that was seen throughout my tour of the backstage areas. I don't have many of the words, but Swahili words and phrases that focused on things like family and care, and there was so much in terms of legacy and tradition as well, as you might expect at a Disney park, or in this case a themed hotel. So there were a number of places in the backstage area that had an emphasis on the service years of the given employees, talked about their commitments. People could leave their own personalized writing or phrases on one of the walls, and that was really evident throughout the backstage tour. And I think what's really important then to suggest here is that theming does not begin and end with the material culture, the architecture, or even, as we saw here, some of the performance, the aesthetics, and so forth. In fact, you have to have it throughout the conceptual and philosophical sense. You have to have it throughout the cast members, their ideologies, their sensibilities. If you do that, you're going to put themselves, the cast members, in a frame of mind that approaches what I've called in the past live theming, which suggests that you can take on some of the notions, ideologies, thoughts, patterns, values, whatever might be appropriate to the given theme space. So in this case, with the heavy Africanist feel, which we could again critique and discuss at length in terms of some of the ideologies to think about here. But beyond that, we could talk about how then, at least in my identification of what I saw in the backstage tour, Disney is placing a key emphasis on extending the theming philosophically, conceptually, in terms of what the cast members understand, how they think about the place, and so forth. And this is something that probably you could say only happens at a place like Disney. I mean, certainly in my experiences at Astroworld, we had some level of that, but because we never had, a single hotel like this or a single space that had this level of capital investment behind the theming, it maybe wouldn't have made as much sense to go into such depth and detail in terms of creating a service culture philosophy that focuses on the theming. And so that's something really key, I would say, to think about here in this tour, because so many critics fail to understand that theming does not begin and end with the materiality of the given theme space. In this case, it does not begin and end with any of the art here, with any of the decor, and so forth. Okay, so I am sitting in the what is now vacant Victoria Falls bar, and as you can see, continues the theming that I think you've witnessed throughout Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge. So again, as I mentioned in the tour of the outside areas near the animals, what Disney does so well is to consider every inch of the space, everywhere from where you're seated to the views. The most utilitarian details are all themed in such a way that, again, as I mentioned earlier, you really need to have the capital, the investments in order to pull some of this off, as well as the incredible creativity and artistry, obviously, of Imagineers and other designers who work very hard on offering a space that's immersive like this to the guest. I think the other thing that's very key is if you're enjoying the Animal Kingdom park and then you go into the lodge, that entire experience from the minute you arrive till when you leave can, in a sense, theoretically be themed. And that's what I think makes it amazing, is that opportunity to consider the entirety of the guest visit and to offer that theming in such a way that the guest is fully immersed in the story, in the dramas that are being told within the space. So I hope you enjoyed this video feature today as we looked at some of the aspects of theming and immersion at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge. And please come back for additional video features of the Immersive Worlds Handbook.